The lender. That's Larry, thehomelender.com.
LarryTheHomeLender.com. That's right.
And I got a text
Thanks.
message.
Yeah.
Here, let me load it up. Let's see. How much money do you need to make to be able to afford a decent house these days? My wife and I both work full time, and it seems to us that home ownership isn't feasible. Homes just seem to be too expensive for us to be able to afford a house.
Wow.
That's fair.
That's an awesome. Well, so there's some subjective stuff in there, right? Subjective, like decent. To be able to afford a decent home, well, first of all, you're probably going to want to go with an FHA mortgage, which is a government-backed mortgage, which has great interest rates, down payment assistance programs for first-time home buyers.
Mm-hmm.
How much do I need to make? I don't know. I'll ask the Dave Ramsey question. You tell me how much you make, I'll ask you how much you spend.
Oh, right.
You know, because I get people that say, hey, between the two of us, we make, $7,000 a month. That's plenty. You can easily afford a house. The math works this way. Take how much you make, gross, $7,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Cut that in half. Now you're at $3,500, okay? That's how much you can afford for all your debt. And when I say debt, I'm not talking about cell phone bills and utility, water and sewer.
What are you
and all
talking
that
about?
stuff. I'm talking about revolving debt, which is credit cards. I'm talking about installment debt, which is car loans, furniture loans, those kind of things. So if you're at $3,500, that you can spend on all your debt, that's 50% debt to income ratio. And now you have a $500 car payment, well, now you're down to $3,000. And then you have some credit card payments of, let's say, a total of $500 a month. Well, now you're at $2,500. Well, for $2,500, if I can get you in at, say, 5.75% interest, you can afford a house at $300,000. And there's a lot right now, and I know for sure that there's several real estate agencies in town that do fix and flips and that are flipping houses that are right around $225,000, and they're phenomenal. I mean, these are houses that have been, it's not a 5-gallon makeover type situation, right? They've gone in and actually redone plumbing, wiring, sheetrock, put in new flooring and all those kind of things. So they're really nice, affordable 3-bedroom, 1-bath houses, 2-bedroom, 1-bath houses. It's just, you have to kind of set your expectations. You're not going to be able to go out and buy a 3,000 square foot, 5-bedroom, 3.5-bath house as a first-time home buyer unless you won the lottery.
Right. The equations that you just talked about, you said like with $2,500, you have $2,500 left. Is that what my house payment will have to be then?
No.
$2,500?
No.
Okay.
No. I mean, essentially what I would do, typically when people come to me and they want to try to buy a house, right? First-time home buyers especially, I always ask them this question: do you want me to tell you where your ceiling is? In other words, this is the maximum house that you can afford. And if I tell you the maximum house you can afford is $300,000, the last thing you want to do is start looking at stuff that's $325,000, $350,000, and
right.
Well, maybe we can stretch it a little bit. I'm not that guy.
Right.
I mean, I'm not that guy. That makes you house rich and cash poor. And now all of a sudden you're just struggling to make it, and you look at me and go, why did you let us do that? Well, I won't.
Right.
I mean, you would have to twist my arm pretty hard to make me do that to somebody. That's just not in my DNA.
Right.
It's not who I am. As a lender, I'm not doing this because I like to close loans. I do this because I like to see people get into houses that are affordable,
Right.
that are comfortable, and they can begin to build equity and build wealth.
So if my ceiling's at $300,000, would I still be okay looking for a $200,000 house?
You would be very, very well off doing
Yeah.
a $200,000 house. Because again, if you've got $2,500 to spend and you're only spending, let's say $1,900 or $1,700, well, that's $800 a month that you can start looking at saving.
Mm-hmm.
And that's $9,600 a year. And in a matter of 3 years, you're getting close to $30,000 if you put it in an interest-bearing account. And then you would look at me and say, gee, Larry, that was awesome. We want to do that again. Because now you're in a position to maybe buy another house and turn that first house into a rental property, and now you have some passive income.
Okay, what about that person that has some investment opportunities? Like, hey, I want to buy a rental house.
Right, so there's a lot of different ways to do that. I mean, if it's a fixer-upper, we can do fix and flip, fix and hold, or we can do, again, DSCR. That rates are a little higher on those. You're in the 8% range, but DSCR stands for debt service coverage ratio, so it doesn't require you to submit income documentations. It requires us to establish how much that property will rent for, how much cash flow will that so if you find a property and you're gonna be able to cash flow, let's just say you're gonna rent it for $2,000 a month and your payment's $1,500 a month, after you put your down payment and everything like that's all said and done, then we're done. The house itself is going to create that payment, right?
Right. Okay. How about mistakes that we make doing this stuff? Whether it's me, I want to buy a rental, or first timers.
Thinking that you're going to be able to come to the closing table with no money down. I get that call all the time. People go, well, what about the zero down? What about the USDA loans?
Mm-hmm.
Well, USDA loans are great, but you got to qualify. There's income qualifications and things like that. If you make too much, you're not going to qualify for that.
Mm-hmm.
Then again, if you make too much, you don't need USDA. We're going to go FHA, or we're going to go conventional. Conventional, you got to have a credit score of 620 or better, or we have to go FHA. I've got a price out on somebody that's got a 540 credit score right now, but they're selling a house and they got money in the bank, and so they actually qualify for an FHA loan at a pretty decent rate. You'd be shocked. And again, being a wholesale mortgage broker, not a retail lender, my rates are typically better than most.
Hey, grab those headphones. We have another phone call. It's Local Matters. You're on the air. A home that's on a trailer court.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we have lenders. There are, I think I've got about 4 different lenders that will do manufactured home in a mobile home park on what's known as leased land. In other words, you've got a payment on the lot of, let's say, $500 a month, which gets included in your debt to income ratio. So in other words, yeah, we can do those manufactured homes in a mobile home park. The difficult ones are the older manufactured homes on land that are not in a park. That gets really tough. Anything prior to 1976, and I do believe there's some of that in Grace Harbor County. Is that? No, they do not. You're correct. Yeah, you would not be able to buy an investment property in a manufactured home park. Most manufactured home parks are, they have rules against that. All right, thank you.
Thanks for the call. If you have a question, you can give us a call at 360-533-5259. Email or text johnny@jodesha.com. Okay, how about questions that buyers really should ask their lender?
Questions that buyers should ask their lender.
Yeah.
What's it going to cost me? I mean, I just came to the closing table with a first-time home buyer probably about a month ago. And she was just wonderful. I mean, what a great person to work with. But then she got her disclosures. And it showed the total cost of the loan. If you make every single payment, 360 payments on time every month, the total cost of the loan, right? Because that's based on the APR, it's not based on the base interest rate. So pay attention to APR. I had somebody send me a loan estimate from another lender not long ago. The rate was 6.25, but the APR was 7.85, which means there's 1.2%. That's pretty hefty in the APR world. So just got to watch out for those kind of things, right?
Got another phone call. It's Local Matters. You're on the air.
I'm going to be at the preseason game in Seattle, and I've already reached out.
Is this the Raiders? Are we talking about the Raiders here?
Sorry, we're gonna. I'll tell you, who knows? But Pete, I'm really looking forward to seeing how the Seattle crowd reacts to Pete and Gino getting out on the field. So I'm going to be sitting in the club section. I'm going to be there early. I'm allowed to come in 3 hours early, so I'm certainly going to be popping down and seeing some of the players and having some chit chats and things like that. But you know what? We're always optimistic. That's just the way we are. All right. Thanks, Jim.
You've been a lifelong Raiders fan.
Yes, sir.
No matter where they're at. It
Yeah.
could be the Mars Raiders, and you
Yeah,
would be
we
a
could,
fan.
we could go to Moscow, Russia, and still have sellout stadiums. I mean, it's just the bottom line there.
All right, all right. But you don't have to be a Raider fan to like call you or go to LarryTheHomelander.com or anything like that.
Negative.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just love football. I mean, if you got tickets to a game and Seattle's playing Tampa Bay, I'll go. I mean, let's just do it, right?
The difference between pre-approved and pre-qualified, back to the Homelander stuff.
You could send me a loan application, and you could tell me this is how much I make, and support it with pay stubs. You can support, what your income is. You can give me a good idea of how much money goes out the door, cash flow wise, on your installment debt and your, and I can pre-qualify you based on what I see prior to pulling a credit report. Right? A pre-qualification is weak. Most real estate agents won't accept pre-qualification. This is something that a lender, and I'll call them a national lender that names themselves after a thing that goes into space, was really famous for doing pre-qualifications and not pre-approvals. A pre-approval usually, if it's done by a reputable lender, is going to be underwritten. In other words, we've got your entire life on 8 pieces of paper, and we can tell you without a doubt that you qualify for 300, 500, 2 million. And once that pre-approval is done, it's backed up by a letter. And so that's the big thing. I can look at your file and say, yeah, you're pre-qualified to buy that $300,000 house.
You've seen so many situations that you kind of have it down.
Well, it just gets a little bit iffy because people sometimes the credit report comes in and they forgot to tell you about that debt that settled out of court 3 years ago, and they've got 17 90-day lates on their credit report, and their score is below 500. And all of a sudden, so I don't put out pre-qualification letters. Just don't do it. My reputation is important, and so is yours. And so at the end of the day, I want to make sure that people really truly are pre-approved to make a good, solid offer.
Right. Let's see. We have less than a minute. This just zipped by, didn't it?
I'm amazed at how fast the time goes. It's just, it flies by. Always fun to be in here with you, Johnny.
How do I get a hold of you?
You can find me on social media. You can reach out to me, Larry, at empirehomeloans.com, LarryTheHomelender.com, or 360-580-4249. Shoot me a text.
We'll do it again, I hope.
Yes, sir, next month.
All right. So I appreciate Larry the Homelender, and it's Mortgage Monday. I like that. It's good stuff.
Have a good one, everybody.
Tomorrow we'll have Pastor Sean on.